Shall we play a game?
Hello. We're in a 114. We're heading for Runsburg, Arensburg, Arensburg, I don't know.
Says hi there.
Somewhere. It's nighttime. Meh. I started out in an Expert 101. I got 1 meter, blew up something, fixed it, got 12 meters, blew up something, gave up. Hello, Maverick, Joshua, Chocky, Transport, Jacobs, Zugbuilder, and Choo Choo, I'm a Train. And hello, Sifa.
Chocky Transport says, did you cheat and start before the stream face with tears of joy?
No.
Benjamin's brain in a jar says, are we legit live or realizes this time?
We're legit live this time. I think I'll leave the other one there that just says, crap, I'm live.
Maverick says, Speakerbot is a tad quiet.
Speakerbot quiet, you reckon? Yeah. Hang on a tick. Yeah, I guess it is. Sifa. How's that?
Holy Trucker says, I feel sorry for the Expert 10 owners. Looks like TSG is gonna milk route packs and not layer it freely onto other routes.
Nightbot says, enjoying the stream. Consider supporting the channel by joining https://www.youtube.com/train-simulator-driver/join.
/joy, it reckons. So, Holy Trucker, don't forget someone's got to build that timetable and build the scenarios. There's a lot of work in those.
Holy Trucker says 101.
Nightbot says,
hey, Lord
want
Vectron.
to keep
Hello,
chatting
Holy
outside
Trucker.
of streams. Join my Discord https://discord.gg/zxpunch5.
I tried to make chatbot ignore Nightbot and gave up. It can ignore itself, but it doesn't understand how
Chalky
Nightbot
Transport
connects.
says you streamed a HSB46 mod and a BCC mod, and both of those are add-ons now. Stream more mods face with tears of joy.
Yeah, that
Lord
already
Vectron
wasn't
4
lost on
says
me.
that's better. Choo Choo, I'm a Train says better. Chalky Transport says TSG just released an update for their Rail Tour pack.
I don't think I'm going to
Matt
make
Eric
it to the
says
85
at Holy
kilometers
Trucker,
an hour.
not
I
really.
think we're about to get
I'm
stopped.
guessing that it will
Yep,
be
there we
cheaper
go.
than a normal gameplay pack, and the custom timetable has to be fully built.
That's correct.
Melbourne Train Guy says, evening all.
Benjamin's brain in a jar says another joy video at
Straight in, PZB. Yep.
Math Eric says at Melbourne Train Guy, hey there.
Sigh.
Holy Trucker says, it looks like Dovetailer re-getting their ideas from mods released and their popularity now there is a new Birmingham timetable, which is what the mod already does. Chalky Transport says, what is this server and how far does it go? Also penalty break counter, 1.
Ah, you missed the other penalty breaks. I think it'll drive. Yep.
Joshua Cumbers says, with the cross-country license, I'm calling Voyagers, class 220, 221, or even 222, being involved for the UK route in TSW6.
That's not the first time I've heard that thought. So that is possible.
Map Eric says at Chalky Transport, good lad.
Yeah, that's
Maverick
that's
says
possible.
at Joshua Cumbers, hope so.
Chalky Transport says just stream the East Coast Way mod now, lol.
Hamburg. I suppose
Chalky
it's Augsburg,
Transport
isn't
says brakes. Is that penalty break counter, 3.
it? What route is it?
Map
Good
Eric
idea.
says, what route is this?
Hamburg. Lübeck. There you go. So we arrive at Asperg. It's like an iceberg, but there's two of them. And they're next to each other. There's a brown river in the middle. Lake's chocolate. Honest.
Maf Eric says Hamburg, Lübeck. I only have this route because of the 218 from TSG.
Train Sim Germany.
Chalky Transport says cross country are Arriva, so we know Arriva are open to licenses, so maybe Chiltern they can get one from.
Who knows? I've got one booked on my trip, so I'll record it for you.
Chalky Transport says I'll say 3 breaks then. Also never seen this route before, and I still haven't seen it because it's nighttime.
Oh, what a bum.
Joshua Cumbers says my PC is getting the treat of water cooling today, assuming Amazon deliver my parcel today.
You just pour this into it. Mine's water cooled, both CPU and GPU.
Hola Trucker says so TSW6 route could be crew to Hullhead.
My answer to
Lord Vectron 4 says I'd love Exeter to Newton Abbot.
was cool the
Half
shit
the
out of
route
it.
is coastal, so they only need to model half the landscape, lol.
Holy Trucker thinks crew to
Chalky
Holyhead.
Transport says
Possible.
late.
Lord Vectron says I'd love Exeter to Newton Abbot. Half the route is coastal, I need to model half the landscape. I did see someone in the stream repeatedly requesting a remake of West Coast Local. To the point that I think they got kicked out. Bye-bye. Right. Back for another quickie then. Back for another quickie. I think US, I'm kicking around. I'm thinking of freight route, but I'm thinking passenger as well. Don't know why.
Maverick says we need an Avanti 221 and 805 for WCML South.
Speaking of Avanti, there was one repaired earlier. Oh, look at that.
Joshua Cumbers says considering DTG have the GWR licenses, the Riviera line would be cool.
Welcome to a hot summer in San Francisco. What's that, 20
Chalky
degrees?
Transport says I think it's about time for a new third rail route. We have ECW, BML, SES, IOW and Bakerloo, and they are all TSW3 backwards.
Baker-poo.
Holy Trucker says IWS so hoping the GUI had disappeared because they were gonna go modern on that route instead, and for TSW6. Chalky Transport says what route is this one?
Peninsula Corridor. We're doing a scenario, apparently.
Chalky Transport says Baker Poo. Oh dear.
I've only got these turned on because it's a scenario and it's going to get insistent on doing things in the right order.
Chalky Transport says what if they shocked us and went 3 different countries for the core? Joshua
think they will
Cumbers
do
says
3
at
different
Chalky
countries.
Transport West Coast Way Brighton to Portsmouth. Holy Trucker says I'm gonna miss this route next year.
You don't have to miss it. You can keep playing it. Why would you miss it? That one? It's only got a alerter, apparently.
Maverick says bringing back the free starter pack for TSW6 was a stroke of business acumen.
Well, if they didn't do it, people would have had a stroke. That's why. Hello,
Transport East Anglia says hello.
But I agree, bringing it out is pure genius. Because not bringing it out, not an option, really. So what is this scenario? It's supposed to be a quickie. Where are we going?
Chalky
Millbrae.
Transport says no, I meant 3 different countries. to the ones we normally
And
get.
San Francisco
They'll almost
sightings.
certainly do UK
That's a
though
bit different.
anyway.
Well, it's a UK company, of course they will.
Maverick says Will Peninsula Corridor, the MP36PH, and the MP15DC transfer to TSW6.
They will not. Oh, I had that the wrong way.
Chalky Transport says I feel like I have seen this loco before.
You have. It's the MP36.
Lord Vectron 4 says I have it on good authority there will be 3 new routes and 3 new locos.
Well, that is kind of what they said.
Joshua Cumbers says also, the class 180 would be cool, but would we go anywhere? Rolling on the floor laughing.
That's a bit like an ICE.
Chalky Transport says you'll be going nowhere. Holy Trucker says it went free but now tease my goal to buy it. I want the new routes, not sure about the locos yet but I'm hoping for a Voyager 4 Deluxe.
The
Chalky
MP36
Transport says where
also
else is the
turns up
MP36? I can't even remember.
unofficially in
Maverick says at
Oakville.
Joshua Cumbers, especially since the 180 is terrible in TS
and
Classic.
in San Bernardino and Antelope Valley.
Chalky Transport says last year they only did 2 new locos and an existing US route for Deluxe instead of 3 new locos.
Yeah, that annoyed people a little bit. There's been a lot of people asking for the coaster route, the one down towards San Diego.
Chalky Transport says San Bernardino, I knew I had seen it.
There's been a lot of people asking for Brightline. There's been a lot of people asking for Amtrak.
Chalky Transport says did they do 3 locos for TSW3 then? Lord Vectron 4 says and Cajon wasn't even upgraded with suspension.
Maverick says Brightline would be awesome NGL.
Yeah, you know why Brightline would be really good?
Joshua
Smashing in the
Cumber
car.
says do you have a Discord server?
I do.
If you do, I fancy joining.
It's on my channel page, the link, but let me get it for you.
Lord Vectron 4 says I was pretty miffed cause I needed it for the Pendu but had all of the other content. Chalky Transport says why does this sound like the 465 on this corner?
Because it's squealing like a piggy. There you go. There's a Discord link.
Train Simulator Driver says discord.gg/zxacbngjh5.
That's the whole point
Benjamin's
of
brain
Brightline.
in a jar
Benjamin's
says
brain
if
in a
it's
jar.
Brightline you'd just be hitting cars all the time.
See, Brightline has a secret mission.
Nightbot says please smash the like button
welcome,
to promote
Joshua.
the stream. Smiley face. Thanks.
Brightline's secret mission
Chalky
is to clean out
Transport
all the
says
dumb
I'm
people
sure
from Florida.
Nightbot will tell you the link anyway, face with tears of joy. Joshua Cumbers says cheers bud. Maverick says I got TSW5S free starter pack, but then I got standard edition from a Atro.
Yeah, we'll see if I get any giveaways this year. Last year it's because I did 5 million
Maverick
tutorials.
says giveaway by Paul.
So we'll see if we get anything. It was 4, honest. If I get any keys, I'll give them away, as usual.
Chalky Transport says what was the TSW3 core stuff? 3 locos and routes. And what was the TSW4 core stuff?
Let's have a
Holy
look.
Trucker says I hope TSW6 doesn't change the HUD, it's perfect, love it just the way it is, it's awesome.
TSW3, what were the routes? It's been so long ago. Cajon Pass, Schnellfast, Direct Castle, Wurzburg, and Southeast High Speed Extended. And then there was Rush Hour as well. Train Sim World 4 was Antelope Valley, East Coast Main Line.
Chalky
and
Transport says,
Vorarlberg.
yeah, I like the HUD.
The mini HUD. Behind the yellow line, you old bugger. He's just got his head taken off by my mirror. He won't miss it, it's alright. Well, you know we've only got this HUD because Lucas
Lord
just did it.
Vectron 4 says I want HUD scaling. It's obnoxiously big for PC monitor at arm's length.
I'd like to be able to move it.
Chalky Transport says in Deluxe TSW4 was Scotsman, a Vectron, and what else?
You need anything else? You've got Scotsman and a Vectron. You want a
Holy
brightness in
Trucker
game.
says I want a brightness in game feature for TSW6.
I think what you really want, Holy Trucker, is gamma adjustment. Because if
Gav's
you
Photography says TSW2 only came with 3 routes.
if you mess with gamma, you'll find it's a better result than messing with brightness.
Choo Choo I'm a Train says I hope they improve the filtering on Creators Club, then I may use it.
We don't know. What do you want the filtering to do?
Chalky Transport says was it only those 2?
Map Eric says as you 100,000,000% sure that Peninsula Corridor and its 2 locos won't transfer to TSW6?
I am completely sure. They will not transfer to 6. You'll have to keep 5 to play them. The UP loco could,
Chalky Transport says was just wondering.
but the SW1500 and the MP36 and the F40 and all the carriages are branded, so they cannot.
Maverick says at Train Simulator Driver, did you see the abomination of a channel livery for Flying Scotsman that my brother Joel cooked up for me?
I had not noticed it. Is it still on your channel?
Holy Trucker says I'm worried only have 22 gig left on my SSD and now have to accommodate TSW6 and whatever add-ons release before then.
Holy Trucker says 200.
Maverick says yeah, it's still up on the channel.
Let's have a look then.
Choo Choo I'm a Train says enter an engine type and get the engines of that type.
Joshua Cumbers says anyone here watch F1?
I don't see a...
Maverick says at Joshua
Scotsman thing on
Cumbers
your channel?
sometimes. Chalky Transport says well on release day I'll be spending
Don't
10 hours
panic.
deleting everything off of my PC and installing everything again because it doesn't let you choose what to install, then uninstall it all again. Melbourne Train Guy says at Chalk, the deluxe edition of TSW4 came with the LGV route from EB Games, not sure about the UK.
If you add the game, assuming you're
Chalky
using Steam,
Transport says those
but
lights
don't
were
install
wild.
it, you can untick the DLC that you don't want.
Chalky Transport says okay MBTG.
You don't have to install it all.
Map Eric says at Chalky Transport same, good thing I have fast internet.
Holy Trucker says hey Paul, what is the new mod option in the in-game menu now in TSW5? Can we activate mods in-game now?
There's a mod menu? Where? Oh, that's no, it's
Lord
Creators Club.
Vectron 4 says at Melbourne Train Guy that was retail edition. Joshua Cumbers says big news from Red Bull Racing Formula 1 team. Team principal Christian Horner has been sacked.
Come on, brakes off.
Chalky Transport says nah epic. There isn't anything that lets you choose DLCs before downloading it all, at least to my knowledge.
Why are my brakes stuck?
Choo Choo I'm a Train says release day is ruined by having to download everything again.
Lord Vectron 4 says at Chalky Transport if you have Steam you can select the DLC before you install.
Yeah, always Steam better than Epic. There we go, now they should release.
Maverick says at Joshua Cumbers holy shit asterisk T I had not heard that.
Yay,
Chalky
they're releasing.
Transport says the mod option disables installed mods but it doesn't even let you on CC, you still have to uninstall them all.
Ah, brakes, pump it up.
Melbourne Train Guy says at Lord Vectron, oh I didn't realize. Sorry
Leave this
about
pumping
that.
its brakes up. We'll go visit the people. G'day.
Joshua Cumbers says
How you
at
doing?
Maverick got announced
Morning.
literally 15 minutes
Hi.
ago.
Morning. Hi.
Gav's Photography
Hi.
says TSW4 Deluxe for PS5 at IP Games is $23 instead of $70 out.
I think I busted it.
Hola Trucker says I hate American Freight too slow so I just unticked them in DLC Manager on Steam.
Chalky Transport says well if one of you wants to pay for me to get it all on Steam then I'll do that face with tears of joy. I use Epic because you get free credit.
My train gym, it's sad. I busted it, clearly.
Lord Vectron 4 says it's sad Epic has to entice with free games and credit and not by making a good service and storefront.
Haven't popped PCS.
Holy Trucker says $30 for special edition on Steam made in my country cheaper for you.
Choo Choo I'm a Train says the mastery could be improved by hiding routes you don't have. Gav's Photography says holy trucker do you want to push the freight train rolling on the floor laughing. Maverick says I actually like doing American freight from time to time, but the old British electrics is what gets my wheels moving, pun intended.
Busted it.
Chalky Transport says well yeah. Joshua Cumbers says have you tried turning it off and on again?
Yep. The main menu button. Works good. Right, back in there again. So where's this mod menu? I don't see it. Off we go. What are we gonna get?
Holy Trucker says I love power brake combined trains.
Maverick says mastery is extremely buggy. I have to use a mod in order to unlock mastery rewards I should have gotten if the game was working correctly. Gav's Photography says holy trucker broke Paul's train rolling on the floor laughing.
Inspect the exterior. It's green. It's green. It's green. Green. Good. Right. Which end though? This end.
Chalky Transport says Vectron. Holy Trucker says love the Flix train best purchase I ever made in TSW. Maverick says that Flix train livery is an eyesore NGL.
Gav's Photography says Kermit aka Lucas is here rolling on the floor laughing.
Gummy.
Chalky Transport says some of the scenario idea are a bit boring really, especially when they never have layers.
Just the emergency brake. Oh, there's the button. Bonk.
Marcus Compes says the wheels on the train go round and round, round and round, round and round. Maf Eric says I wonder how I can break speaker but, laughs in Palpatine asterisk.
Gav's photography says and Matt's in the engine room.
Come on, you. Power on. No power. We don't have any power, do we? Pantographs aren't up. Or are they? Nah.
Joshua Cumbers says never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you, never gonna make you cry, never gonna say goodbye, never gonna tell a lie and hurt you. Holy Trucker says I don't know why but I'm in love with the Zwol route, that Sprinter is just so nice to drive.
I think we all just got rickrolled. You gonna wake up now, Train?
Gav's photography says oh no, Josh rolling on the floor laughing.
Marcus Compass says the horn on the train goes beep beep beep.
It does. It's got power now, but it still doesn't want to move. Parking brake, maybe? Let's have a look.
Lord Vectron 4 says MCB still open. Chalky Transport says Rickroller.
Yeah, I just
Joshua Cumbers says you're welcome winking face.
Oh, it's waking
Benjamin's
up.
brain in a jar says have you tried turning it off and on again?
You're helpful, Benjamin.
Chalky Transport says the wheels on the train go nowhere 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 because TSD didn't set the train up right.
Bonk.
Transport East Anglia says at Joshua Rickroll. Maverick says I'm not surprised Tadami and the GWE remaster got pushed back to TSW6, but it still feels like a kick in the balls.
But you like a kick in the
Gav's
balls.
photography says the horn needs to be a rickroll.
Chalky Transport says if it helps I was never gonna give you up or let you down either.
Marcus Compes says fa ha 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 ha. I just typed those things, oh ow 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 going on the bouncy train, but don't wreck it, like Thomas the Tank.
Gav's photography says Paul pushed the train in the garbage.
Chalky Transport says the bump always makes me laugh when you couple. Maf Eric says this is rapidly devolving into chaos LMFAO.
What's wrong with chaos? Chaos is good. Lane. Oh, without the other end, maybe. Probably. There we go. Lizbuzz. Buzz. Zephyr. This has been almost half an hour just setting it up. Zugbeeinflussung. Your blossom is on fire.
Chalky Transport says it's a shame not more locos have modeled engine rooms. DTG only did it when one of the safety systems was in there, but TSD and JT always seem to do it. Gav's photography says Maverick you're always full of chaos, rolling on the floor laughing, rolling on the floor laughing.
Hey, finally moving.
Marcus Compass says this chat message is funny and crazy and bouncy, just like Tigger from Winnie the Pooh, who
Hello,
likes to
Scott.
eat his honey.
Welcome along. Hello, Marcus.
Benjamin's brain in a jar says don't forget to open the windows.
Joshua Cumbers says I'm gonna make a safe bet that the Vectron will somehow be involved in TSW6. It was in 4 and 5.
Vectron.
Maf Eric says, ever thought about making an account on Twitter/X or Bluesky or a similar Twitter-esque social media?
I have got Twitter and Blue Sky and
Hannah
various
Scott
others.
says, hello lovely people.
Maverick says at Gav's Photography, you know me too well.
Chalky Transport says, half an hour and we have hardly got anywhere, class 180 sim. Maf Eric says, release PZB.
Chalky Shorts says bounce. Chalky Transport says bounce.
Maf Eric says bounce. Maf Eric says boing. Marcus Compes says, I like your videos, they are fantastic. La la la, Microsoft David and Microsoft Zira are both funny text-to-speech.
They are.
Joshua Atkins says, what US route do you hope to see in TSW6? Nightbot says, enjoying the stream. Consider supporting the channel by joining https://www.youtube.com/train-simulator-driver/join.
Hello Joshua, this is SpeakerBot and StreamerBot working together. They're both local bots that run on your PC. Train fault. Burger.
Maf Eric says, what TTS program is this? Holy Trucker says, Paul Hatz, your opinion on Castle Würzburg, I never play it.
It's a bit long for
Nightbot
me.
says, want to keep chatting outside of streams. Join my Discord, https://discord.gg/zxacbngjh5.
Hannah Scott says for TSW6, I predict a UK route, a German route and a US route. Just putting it out there.
Chalky Transport says, did you know there is a partially modeled yard to the north of Birmingham on the BCC route? It's
There
at least
is,
a
yes.
5-minute drive from New Street before you reach the start of the portal. Maf Eric says, please God, please no more Southern California base routes. Hand
This
with
is one of
index
those ones that
finger
doesn't
and thumb
believe Rail
crossed.
Driver. we're
Nightbot
still going
says please
forwards.
smash the like button to promote the stream. Thanks. Joshua
Has it turned
Cumbers
off
says
AFB? I
he's
think it
broken
has.
it again.
No, it's a
Rolling on
fault
the
in
floor
the
laughing, rolling on the floor laughing.
It's a fault in the scenario. It's deliberate. But why don't I have? I probably have to expect a 0, don't I?
Lord Vectron 4 says, at Hannah Scott out here leaking like it's Watergate. Chalky Transport says, penalty break counter 4. Yes, it
No.
was planned by DTG, but just to screw you over. Also they said no need to panic again, lol.
Joshua
Sounds like
Atkins
it's doing
says I
something.
reckon the UK route will
it's
be
not
the
doing anything.
Southwest Coast Main Line Exeter St David to Penzance. Hannah Scott says at Lord Vectron 4 I can never reveal my sources. Winking smiley.
Can't even turn AFB off.
Chalky Transport says did you know as well there is a whole loop on BCC the other side of Birmingham that goes on to Kings Norton that's almost fully modelled, so you can just drive round in circles forever. TSW5 Gamer says SRY.
TSW5 Gamer says, joining late. TSW5 Gamer says, hi TSD.
Come on. Release the brakes.
Chalky Transport says, well now you broke the train.
There we go.
RFB, RFB,
Right.
RFB, 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 RFB.
TSW5 Gamer says, when is TSW6 coming out? TSD.
Later. The actual release date will be revealed, I imagine, at the Dovetail Direct.
Zugbeeinflussung.
Chalky Transport says nice.
4 months, Maverick. Cool. So August
Joshua
26th,
Atkins
Dovetail
says,
Direct.
have you collected Frankfurter yet?
And the irony is that
Marcus
I'll
Compass
be on
says,
North
I
Yorkshire
think
Moors
that these
Railway
trains
with
are
Ritchie Rail
zombies,
and Casual
but they
on
can't
the
be zombies
26th.
because they got possessed by monkeys because they're Verna.
Tree Sim World.
Marcus Compass says, la la lo fiercy. Chalky Transport says, what if they mess with us and go US, UK and Netherlands?
Well, they could.
Hannah Scott says they mentioned other new games coming out. Bus Sim World, maybe.
They did mention other games.
Maverick says at Chalky Transport they did US/UK/Austria for TSW4.
Chalky Transport says, what do you call two monkeys that share an Amazon account? Prime mates.
Ah, too fast.
Joshua Atkins says, thoughts on the new WMR and XC170 pack.
If I ever mentioned I hate
Maverick
German
says
trains.
at Chalky Transport Luol.
Chalky Transport says they could mess with us even more and do UK, Germany and Japan, but that is highly unlikely.
Oh, Japan, Tadabi. Konnichiwa.
TSW5 Gamer says, can you still play TSW5 when TSW6 comes out?
Yes, you can. You can keep them running side by side if you want to. If you've got enough storage, that is.
Choo Choo I'm a Train says release is usually 3 to 4 weeks after Dovetail Direct. Marcus Compes says fireball, fireball, fireball.
I'm doing less than 150, aren't I?
Joshua Cumbers says at Chalky
What was
Transport
that
BA
for?
Dumb TSS.
Marcus Compes says ha 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 ha. That was so funny.
Why did it do that?
Chalky Transport says, well now this is really penalty brake counter, for.
No, it doesn't actually stop
Math
me.
Eric says at Chalky Transport I would love that.
AFB's not showing as on, is it?
Hannah Scott says at
That's why
TSW5
that's
Gamer you
happening.
can, but they will do the free starter pack if you want to upgrade. TSW5 Gamer says THX at Hannah Scott.
Oh, it's another train fault.
Chalky
Right.
Transport says penalty brake counter, 5.
Oh, I didn't do it. It's another train fault.
TSW5 Gamer says TSD PLS Drive S350 to Houston PLS. Maf Eric says breaking speaker bot in 3 2 1. Ha 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 ha.
It's funny once.
Chalky
funny when
Transport
Marcus did
says
it.
so neither of these two count.
No, because this is part of the scenario. The
Chalky
scenario does it.
Transport says the AFB was a fault. Marcus Compass says I don't know, but why you just got a penalty brake application. That's the
scenario
reason why
didn't-
you didn't reset the PZB and Cypher system. TSW5 Gamer says TSD.
TSW5
it's
Gamer
actually
says
part of the
PLS.
scenario that this is happening.
Chalky Transport says so 3 then. Every time DTG find a bug they fix it and call it a train fault.
It's fair, isn't it?
TSW5 Gamer says drive 350.
Well, we never know what we'll get because we're running
TSW5 Gamer
quickies.
says 2.
TSW5 Gamer says Houston. Marcus Campis says laughing
See ya,
Microsoft
Melbourne train
David
guy.
text to speech voice.
TSW5 Gamer says from MKC.
Melbourne train guy says catch you all another time smiley face. Maverick says bye at Melbourne train guy. Hannah Scott says they've just given you a duff train.
They have.
I'd be having words with Flix train management.
Yeah, it's buggered. Well buggered.
Melbourne train guy says see ya at Maverick slightly smiling face.
It does say to limp it into Frankfurt, so we are.
Maverick says at train simulator driver you're not supposed to go above 100 kilometers per hour when there is a train fault.
Well, there's more than one train fault because AFB's not working.
TSW5 Gamer says Milton Keynes Central PLS from Houston with a 390/1.
We'll see what comes up because we're playing quickies. If that comes up, cool. But we've had 2 German routes so far. And an American. Could be due from a UK one. There you go, little Flixie. You're home. You've done a brilliant job. Great. You gonna kick me out of my chair?
Marcus Campis says I'm bouncing and typing.
How do you bounce and type?
Joshua Cumbers says how many routes you got.
All of them.
Joshua Atkins says I think this year has been great for content. Do like take the ticket as it really does surprise you.
Waiting. This is why it takes so long, is because I've got all the routes installed. I go routes. See? There's a few. Anyway, back to quickies. You guys are doing all the talking tonight because I'm too tired. Oh, what? Back on Caltrain again. Do we want to do another Caltrain? No.
Marcus Campis says Tigger is bouncy just Lee 8K the C Cals 142 pacer.
Could I try out the 2019
Maverick says at Train Simulator Driver could you try out the 2019 mod timetable for WCML South by On Track Simulation at some point?
Is it on
Chalky Transport says RFB.
Holy
West
Trucker
Coast.
says I love doing Pender Run on the Manchester route, it's addicting. Chalky Transport says that was way too late.
West Coast Mainline South 2024 timetable, is that the one?
Joshua Cumbers says what time is it where you are?
It is 8:13 p.m.
Gav's Photography says Flix Train is going to the garbage bin and crushed rolling on the floor laughing.
Yeah, Flix Train's gone.
Chalky Transport says you should try the WCL modern timetable. Chalky Transport says chat we got a star woo woo.
Bing.
Joshua Cumbers says yay. My local route.
Gotta like that bell. I've been here. I've got that train. I didn't catch this one because it's the same as that one, but it costs more. Go figure.
Joshua Atkins says I hope someday quick play will be separated to timetables and scenarios.
That would be
So
good.
if you want to just do a random timetable service, it will just do it.
That would indeed
Chalky
be good.
Transport says can you sound the whistle on departure please?
Just did. What do you want the whistle? Is there a whistle? Or is there only a horn? Looking.
Chalky Transport says why do I feel like 90% of quick plays are scenarios, and if you turn on trainings then 80% are trainings and 15% are scenarios. Marcus Compes says all aboard the British Railways train line. Chalky
Gatwick
Transport
Express, where
says
you
I
pay
think we need a 30
£40
to 60 minutes one.
More than catching the same
Chalky
service with
Transport
Southern.
says whistle on bottom left.
Maverick says at Chalky Transport I agree.
Bottom. Oh, there. That's
Chalky
mid
Transport says scarp that, just left not bottom left.
Off we go to East Croydon, where keeping your wallet is optional. Just for you.
Marcus Compes says it's time to depart for the Baunim Cyrosoft Sam and his Roflocopter and other vehicles.
Suffer.
Joshua Atkins says what are your thoughts on San Bernardino?
I don't mind San Bernardino. I like it better than Antelope Valley. I think for American trains, what I'd love to see...
Joshua Cumbers says Amazon should be delivering my water cooler by 1 p.m. UK time, in less than 2 hours. It still hasn't left the Amazon delivery station. This could be interesting.
You never know, they might pull it off. I hope you've got CPU paste. And if you planned out whether your cooler is going to fit in your case. I had to modify my case to get mine in.
Marcus Compes says I just typed that and it's so much fun.
They're kind of big.
Marcus Compes says Dovetail need to make the northeast corridor
Hey,
complete line.
We're on Brighton Main Line. Flying the
Chalky
Galaxians.
Transport says did you know the only GAT-X services I have seen recently have been Southern X, Great Northern and C2C.
I just think it's funny that people pay to ride this train.
Chalky Transport says the GAT-X stock has been in Seaford and Portsmouth. Lord Vectron 4 says most coolers come with thermal paste these days unless you buy the cheap Shunting ones.
Mine wasn't cheap. Mine's an Arctic. Arctic DE. And it's a 460.
Chalky Transport says stream this with the 700 mod and we might get it as a DLC knowing the irony.
What I'd like to see is all the American freight routes upgraded with a Amtrak train. That's something I'd like to see. Have it run everywhere. But I would like Brightline. I think Brightline would be cool, even though it's Florida.
Joshua Cumbers says yeah, I do. I check these things. For context, I fix computers for a living.
Oh, good. I should send you to Hentus then. You can fix his.
Chalky Transport says from Brighton to Gatwick it's okay, but from Gatwick to London it's only 2 minutes quicker.
Exactly. And you pay £40 for that 2 minutes. It's not worth it.
Casual Rail says hello. How
Hello,
are we
Casual
today?
Rail. I'm well, thank you. Sleepy, but well.
Marcus Compes says Dovetail should allow their players to play the NEC route in its entirety.
What stops you?
Maf Eric says I haven't been making any videos for the past 5 days because I have gotten a blighty bug. Arg.
Bugger. Well, I hope you get better soon, Maverick.
Maf Eric says at Casual Rail hey there. Marcus Compes says they should also add conductor mode to all the NEC routes.
I barely
Chalky
play conductor
Transport
mode, which
says
is
nope,
funny because
not
I was
worth
one of
it
the
at
people that
all.
jumped up and down and yelled for it.
Casual Rail says hey at Maverick.
Nice, Hannah.
Hannah Scott says when you were talking about water coolers, I thought you meant drinking water dispensers. Good job, I didn't make myself look stupid there. Chalky Transport says actually someone did a review of every airport express train the other day. GAT-X was last by a mile.
Well, I'll be catching the Stansted Express when I land in
Odin Moore says
UK.
HS2 when it's built, LOL, face with tears of joy.
V4 Vitty says nice voice. Do you wanna play a game, Dr. Falcon?
Ah, now you're going back in time, V for Bitty. And I think we do.
V4 Vitty says rolling on the floor laughing.
Chalky Transport says yeah, the Stansted Express is nice, class 745 flirt.
Yeah, I'll be taking that into whatever station it is. Let me have a look, forgotten. But it's right in the
Marcus
city.
Compass says voices. Chalky Transport says we will get TSW70 before HS2.
I reckon you'll get TSW7 before GTA 6.
Maverick says
where
at
am I
Chalky
coming into?
Transport, have you seen the ATS 745 for TS Classic?
Liverpool Street.
£40 for 1 EMU. Grumpy Englishman says just give us TSW10 already, maybe then it might be worth something.
Hello, Grumpy Englishman. How are you?
Hannah Scott says my thoughts on wanting the Flirt and Greater Anglia route in the game are very well known by now.
I think that's a fine want to have. 7 miles
Odin
to our
Moore
next
says I
mugging.
would like to see them add more in-cab features such as the computers.
That'd be good. Some trains have them.
Nightbot
most
says
don't.
please smash the like button to promote the stream, smiley face, thanks.
I know the Euro people would absolutely love to have Vibulda in the game.
Maf Eric says at Grumpy Englishman, what mood are you in today? To clarify, this is a joke.
He's grumpy. He's always grumpy.
Grumpy Englishman says fantastic, how is Paul today?
V4 Vitty says multilingual. Sprechen Sie Deutsch. Sean Land says Sean Train Sim World 6 good.
Well, we hope so, Sean.
Joshua Cumbers says at Hannah Scott I second this.
Grumpy Englishman says at Maf Eric quite happy today.
Good to hear, Grumpy.
Chalky
wants more
Transport
third
says
rail.
hashtag more third rail.
We've all been stopped down there. Passengers will soon be arriving at East Croydon. When the gangsters get in, it's recommended that you give them your wallet.
Hannah Scott says although Greater Anglia is being renationalist in autumn, could be easier to get the license.
Depends who owns the brand, Hannah. Whether it's owned by the company or if it's
Odin
owned by
Moore
the
says
top.
I really hope that they give us a new country as part of the 3 routes for TSW6.
If it's owned by the TOC, then the license might come with it.
Maf Eric says when the Tadama line comes out, TSW will get official Japanese support, so I will probably do a challenge where I put the game into Japanese for a month or something.
Chalky Transport says actually I was half expecting a ROG 37 in front of that 377. That's what you get when you play too many of your own scenarios faced with tears of joy.
This is very true. Marcus wants to make some
Marcus
model
Compass
train.
says Dovetail should make some model train routes that take place in other countries besides the United States.
Dovetail have a Woo.
Joshua
It's not a
Cumber
guy, though.
says, does anyone know if Wu Guy still works for Southern? I want to hear his announcements.
There was a very funny guard on a Southern train when I took it out to go onto the Bluebell Railway.
Marcus Compass says oh my goodness. Chalky Transport says GAR under TUK I think, who are also behind EMRWMR and LNWR.
They're doing everybody.
Grumpy Englishman says, I want TSD face as the Train Sim World 6 box cover, please. Chalky Transport says yes, there will be no Thomas in this siding either. Chalky
Thomas.
Transport says, Josh, no.
I've got to get off my ass and put all my UK videos out from last time. Otherwise I'm going to have even more. I have got good news, because it's all up and running now.
Gav's Photography says Paul would break the camera JKS rolling on the floor laughing rolling on the floor laughing.
I have two now.
Chalky Transport says no Thomas I said because it's not my scenarios LOL. Grumpy Englishman says ah well we all knew it was coming. Marcus Compass says blank chat field.
Hannah Scott says at Chalky Transport they'll be under the new Great British Railways TOC when the franchise runs out.
Chalky Transport says a UK vid a month and then that's a constant flow.
Chalky Transport
B
says yes.
Have you played on the Xbox Series X after
V
the
for Vidi
second memory
says, Paul,
fix
have you
shadows
recently
pop in
played
like
on
crazy and the
Xbox
render
Series
disc is
X?
awful?
After the second memory fix patch the shadows pop in like crazy and the render distance is awful.
Let's have a look.
Grumpy Englishman says, got an interview at 3. Ciao everyone.
Good luck with your interview, mate.
Chalky Transport says but then if GBR says no to a license that's bye-bye UK routes. Marcus Compass says Harry Potter should be in Train Sim World.
Maybe he is.
Joshua Cumbers says, what do you use for playing TSW? You got a proper cab style controller?
I use Raildriver and I use the Cobra mod for it.
Joshua Cumbers says at Grumpy Englishman good luck. Chalky Transport says did you forget you don't have to read chat? Chalky Transport says slow down.
I have. No, I'm just getting the Xbox ready so I can swap to it. Which involves juicy things like plugging in and getting everything off its keyboard. This probably has a million updates to install.
Chalky Transport says the chap behind GTR's Pi Systems programmed the Class 700 with Harry Potter destinations.
Marcus Compes says hopefully they add the Hogwarts Express to TSW, so that we can go to Hogwarts.
Is there any particular route that's particularly bad?
Hannah Scott says at Chalky Transport I hope that they won't say no, although they already have the rights with the Department of Transport to use the British Rail logo. Gav's Photography says Paul's multitasking 2026 edition rolling on the floor laughing. Chalky Transport says speed up now you are going uphill.
Yeah, I was trying to get the Xbox
V
going.
for Vidi says example, Link Rheinstreck noon with clear weather.
Alright, well, the Xbox is booting
Chalky
up, so when we
Transport
finish this
says
one,
we
I'll
can
switch
hear
to it.
menu music.
Yes, you can. Strike. Do I have that installed? Not sure if I even have Link Rheinstrecker. I do. Mains Kablens. Ah! It's not in focus.
Chalky Transport says so we are going to Xbox. Good luck
Oh,
with
yes.
controls. Marcus Compes says and meet Professor Snape, Dumbledore and other people at the station.
Marcus Campis says also Hagrid.
That's me.
Nightbird says enjoying the stream. Consider supporting the channel by joining https://www.youtube.com/train simulator driver/join.
Alright, Link Rheinstrecker's loading up now.
V4 Viti says also on Lin Rheinstreck PZB confirmation is broken.
Marcus Compes says hopefully we get the Polar Express added as well. Nightbot says want to keep chatting outside of streams. Join my Discord https://discord.gg/zxacbngjh5.
Train power. Right.
Shelley Thomas says Manchester Piccadilly more leak Manchester Piccadilly.
Chalky Transport says why we wanting to add all these trains.
Joshua Cumbers says the water cooler is out for delivery finally. Currently estimated to be here between 2:30 to 4:30. Afternoon project, yay.
Chalky Transport says TSD have you driven Thomas on the model railway yet?
No.
Maf Eric says having early lunch so gotta go, but before that, ha 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 ha.
Yep. Well, the Xbox is already on Link Rheinstrecker, so it's we'll switch over to that when this finishes. See you,
Shelley
Maverick.
Thomas says Train Sim World 7 will be announced next year on the December reveals.
Why that late, Shelley? Don't you think it'll be in August like all the others?
Maverick says anyway bye. Joshua Cumbers says at Maverick Sire.
Marcus wants all the movie trains, clearly. If we're doing that, we should get the Orient Express. I'd like the crocodile with side rods too, that'd be cool. Gotta get this thing ready too. Where is it?
Shelley Thomas says and then Train Sim World 8 on summer 2026 and then Train Sim World 9 on winter 2027.
Marcus Compes says what in the Thomas the Tank Engine world was that laugh all about? Microsoft David.
Marcus Campis says you are so right, I definitely want those movie trains.
Right, there we go. There's Xbox. So we'll come back to that in just a moment. Just got back in time.
Hannah Scott says at this point, I feel that they should just lose the number on the end of the titles, and just put the year, like on TS Classic.
A few people have asked about that.
Joshua Cumbers says petition to add the Shanghai Magalv to TSW.
Shelley Thomas says I wasn't flogging expecting TSW6 LOL face with tears of joy face with tears of joy face with tears of joy.
Well, it'll be out soon.
Marcus Campis says New York City subway.
Yeah, I'd like a New York subway. That'd be cool. Either the F line or the 7 would be my favourites. Either would be fine. In World of Subways 4 you get a New York subway, and in World of Subways 1 you get the Newark to New York
Chalky Transport says take a ticket is just annoying because I feel like yelling at the stream. Get on with IT.
Gav's Photography says similar to what iOS has done.
Joshua Cumbers says we just passed Bala 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 Balham. Wugai reference.
Fair enough.
Shelley Thomas says you look like an R40 slant, that's why there's no
thank you, mate.
subways.
Congrats to Joshua, Benjamin,
Chalky
Faramiro,
Transport
and
says the
Jaden79
season
and
of
Craig
reveals is
Bishop.
just
Well
a
done.
bit long-winded, especially when half of them were things we already knew, and they hyped Thomas up too much.
It's very cool of you, V.
Chalky Transport says will it announce those?
I don't know. I guess we'll find
Joshua
out.
Cumbers says thanks at B for Viddy. Smiley face.
I'm surprised the game hasn't wanted to update 10,000 things on the Xbox. Maybe it's quietly done it behind the scenes.
Chalky Transport says no it didn't.
No, it looks like they're not proper chat things, so they don't get announced. I thought I had announcements for Super Chats turned on, but I guess not. I should configure that, I suppose, but it is nicer that I acknowledge it personally. Accidental cool camera angle. Oh, even better. 3. 3. 4.
Joshua Cumbers says how long should I leave my PC to cool down before doing a water cooler install?
Your CPU should cool off almost immediately after the power's off. Make sure you clean the CPU off well to get all the old gunk off it. Scrape it off and clean it with an alcohol pad. Just make sure the machine
V4
is
Viti
properly
says
off.
Paul is the best TSW ambassador, period. So hooray and thank you Paul, grinning face with smiling eyes.
Thank you, V. Missing a gratuitous sprint shot here. Oh no, AWS and a screenshot at the same time. Bad mix. Because the timer keeps going even though it's pausing to take its picture. It's getting pretty busy here.
Chalky
around
Transport says I got aircon for my room, that's where my desk is, not ideal because I need a window open for the vent pipe but it's a Stong unit.
Oh, so you've got water cooling.
Joshua Cumbers says nice, and then have a cider to celebrate a successful install, rolling on the floor laughing.
And if you don't have a successful install, you can pour your cider in it.
Chalky Transport says can't believe we have a scenario with a timetable marker. Marcus Compes says add the Santa Fe Super Chief passenger train route.
Sam MBTA Trains says hi Paul, good morning from Boston, Massachusetts.
Come on, signal. Clear. Yay!
Chalky Transport says water
Hello,
cooling
Sam.
then?
How are you?
I take it that means fill it with water.
Yeah, you put it in the
Holy
bath,
Trucker
didn't
says Paul is a Aussie. Aussies are laid back like us Kiwis. Chalky
kinda.
Transport says wait, we are changing tracks. Nice.
Sam MBTA Trains says some things I'd like to see is a metro route, the Downiester, Tree Rail. I also hope American gets some love.
I don't know that we'll get Metra or Scepter because they both
Sam
refuse
MBTA
licensing.
Trains says good, how about you?
But, Metra would be good, because it's quite an extensive system around Chicago. The only downside of Metra is we'd never shut rails from Illinois out. He is just a little bit in love with Metra. I'm well, thanks, Sam.
Chalky Transport says wow, that's going to be fun getting water up here.
Marcus Compes says banana train route, so that we can play as monkeys and go bananas on a bunch of banana trains.
Okay. Just looking around my desk to see if I've got a banana, but I don't.
Bronco in VA says speculation time.
Absolutely, Bronco, get into it. What would you most want to see? We're about to switch over to Xbox to have a look at that.
Joshua Cumbers says have you seen the new TSC6 controller from Sim Workshop? Looks
have
pretty
seen
decent.
It. They actually admit they're a Chinese company now. They were pretending not to be before, but they've admitted it.
Transport
address.
Eastern Blair says I hope we get the Riviera line, and I think we could because we have GWR and cross country.
The only downside of that thing is it works by manipulating keyboard commands. You should probably have a look at... They gave LaserJet one for free, so have a look at
Bronco in
his
VA
video.
says Washington DC Metro. Won't happen but would be cool.
Pixelade's video is not worth watching because he's just a wanker. But let me find the LaserJet one for you. There it is.
Nightbot says please smash the like button to promote the stream. Smiley face. Thanks.
V4 Vitty says I would like to see the flickering cockpits and displays get fixed. Almost
That's,
every loco,
LaserJet's video.
Xbox.
Right, now we're going over to Xbox, which has just gone into screensaver, of course. Perfect timing.
Shelley Thomas
And
says the
I'll have to
3-hour
face this way to
countdown
play
will start
Xbox.
at 12 o'clock on August 26th. Marcus Compes says old 19th century steam locomotives in
Why am I
TSW.
getting Xbox sound? Right, so it's going there, but it's not going out to stream. Aha! Okay, good. So we're over here on Xbox now to... Oops, locking the doors might be a good idea.
Chalky
right?
Transport says a 3-hour countdown. Ouch my eyes, what is this dashboard?
So we've come over to Xbox to have a look at what V's saying about pop-in and shadows and things. We're running Link Range Tracker as close to noon as I can get it. In a green thing. And I'm not turning on PZB and CIFA.
Shelley Thomas says the Dovetail Direct usually has a 3-hour countdown before it starts, similar to 2023 and 2024.
Yeah, we'll see what they do this year. Now that they've made their announcement, I can tell you one of the reasons I'm going to the UK is to go to the Ambassador
Choo Choo
and
I'm a
community
Train
events.
says the controller has a special sale price at the moment, you save 1 cent. Chalky Transport says 3 hours is way too long.
Yeah, so we'll see what they do this year, but now that they've made their announcement, there's an Ambassador event that I'm going to. So that's one of the reasons I'm
Hannah
going
Scott
to the UK.
says this train is very, well, pepperminty.
It is a bit pepperminty. Whee. So I'm looking
Chalky
for
Transport
shadow
says
popping.
except they told you too late and you missed the sale. V4 Vitty says watch out for tree shadows.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm not really seeing much different, to be honest.
Chalky Transport says what train is this? I have never seen it.
This thing, it's green.
Shelley Thomas says they did their 24-hour countdown in 2022 for TSW6.
There you go, 628.
Marcus Compes says bring the Texas State Railroad to TSW/.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd like to see the
Gav's
American
Photography
ones, the San
says
Francisco
Chalky
Belt
it's
Railroad
628.
from about 1975. That'd be cool. It's basically a railroad that spans the whole San Fran Bay Area. It's really cool. So I'm trying to see anything about tree shadows. V. I am seeing the shadows
Shelley
changing
Thomas
as you
says
approach,
mint.
but I don't think that's different to PC. On default settings, anyway.
Chalky Transport says 628. Wait, is this a loco?
It's a DMU. It's one of TSG's. Runs on Niddertalbahn normally, but we're running it on Link Runstrecker. So I think that pop-in's about the same as PC.
Shelley
on default
Thomas says
settings,
when the
mate.
live stream starts I'm spamming TSW6.
Chalky Transport says oh the blue one.
Don't be mean, Shelley, because I'm
Chalky Transport says yes lime
moderators.
green blue one.
But I won't actually be moderating Dovetail Direct because
V
I'll be
for
on
Viddy
North
says
Yorkshire
no
Moors
difference
with
to PC.
Casual Rail
Ugh.
and Richie Rail.
Joshua
Okay.
Cumbers says I call it the German pacer ha 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 ha.
Although I'm betting
Bronco in VA says Manchester Y.
you will see some of the
Gav's
ambassadors
Photography
on
says it's a DMU.
Dovetail Direct.
Chalky Transport says we know it's TSW6.
Chalky
I've used the door.
Transport says how long does the direct usually last?
Last year was pretty much all day.
Bronco in VA says Manchester to Coventry, Plymouth to Exeter.
Hannah Scott says at Joshua Cumbers funnily enough, there used to be a peppermint sweet called Pacers.
Is it really?
V for Viddy says the faster you go the worse it gets. Joshua Cumbers says at Hannah Scott learns something new every day, smiley face.
Chalky Transport says wait it's that long.
Oh, I see what you mean with the ground shadows. They're popping in quite late.
Chalky Transport says maybe you changed your settings.
It's Xbox, you can't.
Marcus Compass says bring the Austin Steam train as well. Bring screen reader support to TSW. It's time for more accessibility feature being added to TSW.
I think TSW does work with screen readers. I've not tested it.
Chalky Transport says I don't see what you mean at all.
The fence shadows down there was popping in, and you can see the tree shadows pop in. If you watch the trees on the left-hand side, you'll see their shadows pop in as you approach them. And the ones on the right just then, so I can certainly see that. You don't see that so much from the cab. So if you're sitting in the cab, it's happening and you're down low, so you don't really see it much. But if you're up there, you certainly see it. This is what
Chalky
optimization
Transport
means,
says
though,
home,
folks.
yeah.
Optimization makes it look a bit shit. Yeah, look at the trees in there, the distant ones. They're a bit poppy.
Gav's Photography says Xbox has screen readers.
At least it can do that now. It couldn't do that before. I am seeing lots of shadows for objects drawing quite late as well.
V4Viti says Paul, what is the difference between HD and 4K on Xbox? Just blurriness.
I'm running 4K, at least I think I am. Have a look.
Bronco in VA says I would imagine US, UK and a new country. Marcus Compass says oh my goodness, Dovetail should fix those shadow flickering bugs on Xbox. Glatos is weird. ADN should be the passenger announcer.
Finally, there it is. I think I'm running 4K. Yeah, I am. And if you run 1080, then it's, yeah, it'll be not as nice. Quicker though. So if you're running an Xbox S, running 1080...
Train Sim World says hi everyone, Jamie here, slightly smiling face.
Hello, Train Sim World, how are you? Welcome along, Jamie. We've just been casually playing, chatting about what might be coming.
Hannah Scott says at V4Viti it's more a graphics vs performance mode. On Series S HD targets 60 FPS, and 4K targets 30 FPS.
Yeah, so we're currently running on Xbox
says, hey
X.
Jamie. Happy smiley.
V
Bronco
commented
in
on
VA
the
says everything
pop-ins.
looks good to me.
Oh, you mean in the TSW settings? Let's have a look. We can have a
V
look
for
at that.
Vidi says no in the TSW settings.
Notice how
Bronco in VA says I am not a shadow expert though only a novice.
Advanced.
Bronco in VA says Jamie.
That display mode, on Xbox X it won't do anything. On Xbox S it will render it in 4K and display it at 480. At 1080, sorry.
Chalky Transport says this is what happens TSD. You stream a mod and Jamie gets jealous and gets DTG or Revit to make it. Jokes of course.
Well, it has happened, because we streamed modded 170s and they're now in the game.
says General.
We've streamed modded Oakville, are we getting that? We've streamed the modded timetable for the
Marcus
HSP46
Compass says
and
Glatos
that's now
should
turned
be a
up in the game.
passenger announcer
So,
on
yeah, it's
all
kinda
US
true.
trains.
But I can see what you mean, V. It is more poppy than it used to be. But I think if I wanted to trade off crashing versus poppy, I'd go for poppy. I could put up with popping. What I'd be really curious about is what it looks like on the Xbox S. But I haven't got that plumbed in at the moment. So I can't
Gav's
just switch to it
Photography
easily.
says, wow, Chucky rolling on the floor laughing, rolling on the floor laughing.
I'm actually looking
Bronco
forward
in
to the
VA says the
170s
170s on BCC. That is
Because
going to be good.
I really enjoy that route, and it's going to get really busy.
Chucky Transport says, quick stream all the mods face with tears of joy. Yeah, looking forward to the 170s because the modded ones are only repaints. Train Sim World says, I am looking forward to the 170s.
I agree. I think it's going to be
Marcus
really good.
Compass says there should be a portal gun and OTA portal things on all trains, so that we can send trains flying around the Aperture Science lane.
Marcus, you should have a look at God mode if you're on PC, because you can do all sorts of weird things with God mode. In my desperation to not overshoot this, I braked way too early.
V4 Viti says, after the first memory patch, shadow performance was excellent. The second patch ruined it.
The second patch was about shadows.
Chucky Transport
They changed
says,
the way
what I
they've done
think
to
is when
reduce the
I
amount of
drive a
memory they use.
170 I'll use the Rivet timetable, but otherwise I'll probably stick with the mod so I can see XCHSDs going by. Not sure though, Rivet might be hiding some wacky trains.
I'm actually happy to see Rivet back, to be honest, because they've been quiet for so long. They got a bit burned by the community, and I think they probably shut their doors for a little while.
Chalky Transport says, how long you planning to stream?
Probably another...
Marcus Compass
30,
says,
40
don't
minutes.
overtake the platform. Marcus Compass says, slow down.
If I overshoot the
Hannah
platform
Scott
here,
says, at Marcus Compies, isn't
have
it Half-Life
problems.
that has a train which was pretty much a man wearing a train hat?
Train Sim World says, what are people most looking forward to in TSW6 announced so far?
nothing's really
Chalky
been announced,
Transport
Jamie.
says,
Just that
people
it's
are already
pumping.
saying the pack is bad. Noon has it yet.
Chucky Transport says, please don't judge this pack until it releases.
Marcus Compies says yes. I think so. Chalky Transport says, well, at the moment, Jamie, we don't really know that much, face with tears of joy.
Yes, I think, Jamie, you might know a little bit more than we do. Just a little bit, probably.
Chalky Transport
can't
says,
see me,
so I
can you?
guess I am looking forward to finding out what is coming.
That's better. Loading some more. Shadows around the station look okay. So there's a bit of popping in there. But I think that's probably the wrong lot on the sign, to be honest.
Marcus Compass says, that's true, we still don't know. Yes, Matu.
Hannah Scott says, care to share / leak? Jamie, well, it's worth a try.
Jamie's not JD. JD's the leak king.
Marcus Compies says, ready for another train ride. Maybe they should add a mall train to TSW.
Oh, kicked
Chucky
out.
Transport says, I am going to eat lunch, be back in 15.
See ya, Chucky. We'll do
Shelley
one more on the
Thomas says, I
Xbox.
don't think that will get the R268 as an R68 replacement, but it's possible that the R211 will also replace the R68.
Let's see what a
Chucky
brings us.
Transport says, food. Gav's
Sadami,
photography
looking forward
says
to
just
Sadami,
lucky
Jamie.
it's not JD aka Leak Meister rolling on the floor laughing.
I just hope Tadami actually gets released because it's been, it's been on the list for such a long time.
Train Sim World says I mean like 142, Tadama.
Marcus Campis says Mario trains in TSW.
Gav's photography says you mean 15 HRS jockey rolling on the floor laughing.
I'm just going to turn this down a little bit. It's very loud in my ears. There we go. It's not too bad for you guys.
Shelley Thomas says
Welcome to
food is
Oh,
coming.
it's a sandbox. Let's see what the shadows are like here. This is a pretty harsh
Hannah
lighting
Scott
here.
says I'm still looking forward to the GWR remaster. Lord Vectron 4 says I'm heading off. Good stream.
Shadows don't look too bad.
Train Sim World says right off for a blood test. Have a good stream everyone.
Hope you're not testing for anything serious.
Joshua
Jamie.
Cumbers says at Train
See you
Sim
soon,
World
mate.
gotta be the GWE remaster for me, considering it was announced for TSW5's Take a Ticket. Also, another thing is All Aboard Studios' new route.
It's time to do some shunting. Free roam style. What switches on?
Gav's photography says have fun Jamie.
Nightbird says enjoying the stream. Consider supporting the channel by joining https://www.youtube.com/train simulator driver/join. Nightbird says want to keep chatting outside of streams. Join my Discord https://discord.gg/xxpunch5.
Come on, do it.
V for Vidi says Paul your voice volume is too low.
That's because I'm far away from the mic.
Nightbot says
Okay.
please smash the like button to promote the stream, smiley face, thanks. Shelly Thomas says POV, Train Sim World 7 is announced and you know not this fucking shot hole.
Joshua says Alexa's yelling at him.
Marcus Compes says they should bring TSW to Nintendo Switch 2. It's pretty powerful. It might be able to run the game.
The Switch is about the same as the Stream Deck, so it could.
Joshua Cumbers says I'll be RB. Alexa is yelling there is someone at the front door LOL.
That's why there's so many locos. We're going to get more locos. What else we can do?
V4Viti says please smash the like button to promote the stream. Thanks.
Maddie L. Lynn says hey.
Hey, Maddie. How are you? How is everybody? My voice is a bit quiet because I have to face this way for the Xbox. That one, just set of points.
Shelley Thomas says Train Sim World 7 will be a fucking posse if it gets announced next year. Marcus Campis says ha 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 ha. More laughing computer text to
don't
spec
need to keep doing
voices.
that, Marcus. We're going to get some more locomotives. Then we'll go and build a ridiculously long train, because we can.
V4 Viti says Marcus, it gets boring fast. Marcus Campis says horn and bell in America. Shelley Thomas says let's make this steam even more Suze.
Marcus Campis says time for some shunting. Marcus Campis says in free roam.
Shelley Thomas says the talking computer LOL. Bronco in VA says Percy for TSW6.
Oh, that's a good call. Percy, the green loco. Good plan. Set these ones. Now I think we should have coupled up to those ones by now.
Marcus Campis says yes, the talking computer. Yes, that's great for more Thomas Locos.
Have we got enough locomotives yet, do you think? Or do we need more?
Marcus Campis says James, Edward, Toby, Henry, and other engines from Thomas.
Shelley Thomas says I would love Percy to be featured and one of new characters like Candy and Sandy who are construction vehicles in Series 21. Bronco in VA says the Office episode where Michael used to computer to speak.
It's kind of what we're doing now.
Shelley Thomas says and Toby, Edward,
What?
Henry and
You're going that
James.
way.
And Spencer the A4 Mallard.
Don't keep going that way. I want to go this way.
Marcus Campis says they should bring the island of Sodor. Marcus Campis says that might be difficult.
I don't know, the island of Sodor wasn't actually very big.
V for Vidi says
Okay,
I wish
go.
Dovetail would fix the lighting on the old TSW routes. They are way too dark. E.g. Sandpatch, British and German routes.
We need more locomotives, we're not done yet.
Marcus Campis says Terence the tractor, Harold the helicopter. Shelley Thomas says and also Toby is the name of SCR's current community director. You might know him as TJH44 or Toby H.
There you go, there's an interesting crossover.
Marcus Campis says rocket trains.
Marcus Campis says Bertie the bus.
Just hope we're not going into one of those sidings, or this is going to get a bit messy. Looks like we are. Brakes, brakes. Lots of brakes. Oh well. Prepare for messy. We won't watch.
Shelley Thomas says and they should add Duck to the WSR route because he's based on the GWR.
We need more locos. More locomotives.
Shelley Thomas says I love this talking computer so much.
Marcus Campis says I agree with that.
It's just a bit of silliness I run on my stream sometimes. Off we go. We're going to go over there and get those locos.
Marcus Campis says Duck and Donald, since they are twins.
You could do that. V wishes the dovetail would fix the lighting on the old routes. I actually think Sandpatch is cool. It's got a nice mellow atmosphere to it. A bit too mellow if you're sleepy. You might go to sleep.
Holy Trucker says, Paul, did you do the recent Win 11 update? No problems with it. Hate updates when it's not broken, they only make them worse.
No, I haven't had any dramas with the update. It's running now.
Shelley Thomas says, and also Carly and Sandy appeared in Series 21 of Thomas in Go Thomas Go, or whatever that's called.
Marcus Campis says Emily as well.
Marcus Campis says Steamy the Steamroller.
Marcus Campis says all engines go.
Shelley Thomas says, yes, I would Emily to be featured in the game in the featured.
Joshua Cumbers says I have returned.
Welcome back.
V for Viddy says some kind of FOV adjustment would be nice.
That would be cool, actually. You can kind of do that if you...
Marcus Campis says that weird animated show that nobody liked.
Shelley Thomas says and Percy just got a new voice.
Lucky Percy.
Marcus Campis says Diesel 10.
That's the one with the digger on its head, isn't it?
Hannah Scott says say what you like, but Sir Topham Hatt will always be the fat controller to me.
Ah, yes. The fat cunt, the fat cunt, the fat controller.
Benjamin's brain in a jar says thank you to whoever gifted me a membership.
That was V for Vitty, Benjamin. Did that very generously. So we come and get our last locos, and then I think we'll get one car. I don't think you can actually take them out of the yard though in this thing. Trying to think when I've ever put the driving loco in the middle of the set before. Let's see if this works. I don't think I've ever tried
Benjamin's
this.
brain in a jar says most kind.
Chalky Transport says yeah, looking forward to getting the Pacer in Wales.
That will be good.
V4 Vitty says you are welcome.
Hey! That went well. I think
Chalky Transport says, wait, what route is this?
That's Sherman Hill. I think we might just go back to the PC.
Marcus Campis says along with his friend Pinchy. Lady and Burnett Stone and other characters from Thomas
Right.
and the Magic Railroad, and Shining Time Station.
Hannah
Alright,
Scott says
one last
whoops.
thing.
Chalky Transport says face with tears of joy.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Clearly you aren't meant to couple to those ones. Alright then. One last quick play.
Chalky
and that'll
Transport
be it
says
for
that
tonight.
was ERM. Interesting.
Interesting. That's okay.
Marcus Compes says Barney Train.
It does do the weird things
Chalky
sometimes.
Transport says, oh no,
what do we
I
got?
can't imagine Diesel 10 in this game.
Are we in a 150? It's a 158, that's lucky. It could have been a lot worse. Right. Master key. Forwards.
V for Vidi says M Donuts. Chalky Transport says see if it's some 5-minute ECS.
Chalky Transport says yep, it is indeed some 5-minute ECS.
Chalky Transport says actually a 1-minute ECS. Hannah Scott says Bowling fresh. Marcus Compes says bring the Barney and Friends train to TSW. Yes, donuts.
It is a 1 minute ECS. Maybe we'll play what it turns into. Oh, we've got the signal.
Chalky Transport says all you do is go round the corner. This is cat card circle except not on the circle.
It's alright.
Chalky Transport says this will be AI only.
We'll have to get something else then, won't we? We can't steal that one.
Marcus Compes says bring Barney, Baby Bop, and BJ from Barney, so that little baby could play it too.
Baby Barney. Maybe like a big sock.
Marcus Compass says bring the Toy Story train as well.
I do have to wonder what the average age of my audience is tonight. So I think we've had a lot of good ideas of things people would like to see in Transcend World 6. I mean, clearly it's too late to influence any kind of development because it's weeks away.
Joshua Cumbers says good
Because we'll
grief,
probably have it.
my doorbell is popular today. It just went off again. Mom's gone to get it this time. Marcus Compass says along with Woody, Buzz, Jesse and Bullseye. Joshua Cumbers says well, I'm 20. C30 is the best says I want to see SJX 2000 in TSW6. Chalky Shorts says I didn't know there was a train in Toy Story.
Toy Story 2, I think's got a train. Or is it 3? One or the other. What bug would you most like to see fixed?
Chalky Shorts says I remember I was in a family member's house and the doorbell wasn't working. There was a similar one over the road and every time someone rang theirs rang our doorbell and not the one they pushed.
That's a bit terrible.
Marcus Campis says good lord, that doorbell went off like all the household appliances in the bouncy house at a bouncy and boingy boingy party with a bouncy train like bo 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 bo.
Really?
Chalky Transport says was hilarious watching them stand there wondering why nobody was coming to the door. Hannah Scott says passengers that know where they are going.
That would be cool.
Chalky Transport says, are there any passengers on this train?
Shouldn't be. Come out of your yard. No. No, looks alright. We have the shunt.
Chalky Transport says also, the doorbell ringing in the house I was in was the wrong chime.
Joshua Cumbers says I've got one of those ring doorbells, so if it goes off, everything in my house makes the same noise in unison.
Chalky Transport says, wow, well done DTG, no people on an ECS.
Nightbot says please smash the like button to promote the stream. Thanks. Chalky Transport says Josh, that must be a nightmare face with tears of joy.
Platform sharing. Or are we coupling up?
Chalky Transport says the security camera was beeping my phone once to say I had a robbery, it was a wasp. Chalky Transport says, oh, platform sharing.
Joshua Cumbers says at Chalky Transport LMAO.
Oh, kicked out. Where you go? Straight in, clearly. I know there's probably an AI at the other end. Yes, there is. So, what we'll do is we'll take this one instead.
Marcus Campis says was a wasp going to rob your house. It might steal your PlayStation, PC, or even Xbox.
Get stung, you think?
Chalky Transport says where's it off to now?
Oh,
Marcus
definitely from the map
Campis
for
says
that.
bring Ajal the blue train from Dora.
It's that one.
Chalky Transport says there are number 158 services on Cathcart, they are all AI only.
$6.50. It's a while. $6.56. 6:38. Let's get on it and we'll take it over. Got a lot of people on it.
Chalky Transport says, when was the last time you drove a steam train?
Oh, well, we're coming with you then. Last time I fired was on last Friday. Last time I drove was probably the week before that. You're taking me with you. Ooh, detonators. That's what they are. Where are we going, mate? Should we turn on our safety systems? It doesn't work.
Chalky Transport says I meant in TSW LOL, my bad.
When was the last time I drove in TSW? A couple of minutes ago. Oh, it's steam
Hannah
train.
Scott says, are her legs clipped into the
few
desk?
weeks.
Looks uncomfortable. Joshua Cumbers says, woo 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 woo. Desiro noises.
I don't know. Doesn't look like she's clipping. So where are we going anyway? 2D03. We'll see where this goes, and that'll probably be it for today. Because I have been up rather a while, and it's just getting on 9:30 here. I've been up since 3:30
Chalky
this
Transport says, actually I meant to say I had some issues with the service regarding loading wagons.
Marcus Compes says making more police or ambulance siren noises. Chalky Transport says I dragged the train through the loader and the last one didn't load. I had to reverse back in.
You probably went too fast. Looks remarkably finished for a non-player area. I wonder if they had plans for it to be a player
Chalky
area when they made
Transport
it.
says, I'd say car alarm train.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. The lighting does look nice in the early morning stuff.
Chalky Transport says, you just drove this way on the 158.
No, we went the other way. Backwards. Where are we going? Telling me where we're going. I'll start fiddling with the buttons. Oop.
Marcus Compass says, Bobo Babio. Chalky Transport says, here is the depot you came from, isn't it?
Yep, it is.
Hannah Scott says, is this where you drive into the void?
I'm thinking it might be. I'm thinking it's going to
Chalky
go all
Transport
white very
says,
soon.
mind control. Powerful woman.
That was the train we passed. The one that was just sitting there. Oh, that was funny. Anyway, I think that'll about cover it for tonight since we've been kicked out of the playable area. So thanks very much for joining in and watching. I think people enjoyed SpeakerBot. I did like hearing all of your good ideas for Transcend World 6.
Chalky Transport says it will indeed go all white. Then after the train vanished into thin air, leaving you sitting there.
Yeah, that's it. So we'll have to see what comes with Transcend World. I am going to an ambassador event in the UK. I did not tell anybody that before because I
Hannah Scott says rave mode activated.
That there was something coming. So I am
Chalky
doing
Transport says brilliant. Thanks
for
for
the
the
time,
stream, TSD.
I will be
Enjoyable as
cruising
always.
around.
We played a game.
So yeah, enjoy yourselves. Have fun. I'm going to go to bed because I'm buggered. Alrighty, enjoy. See you later. Bye. Oh, I'm on top of the cats. Pointless. Bye.
Joshua Cumbers says good to see you, mate.